90s were arguably the best time to be a wrestling fan. We started the year with the slow rise of wrestlers like Owen and Bret Hart, with a certain Shawn Michaels also looming on the horizon. Even though stars of the 80s like Hulk Hogan and Savage continue to be relevant, their reign atop would soon cease and both would eventually leave the company. WWE, however, were in creative limbo, as gimmicks were unimaginative and boring, and WWE entered one of their worst financial runs in the mid-90s as interest trailed off their product. At the same time, there was tremendous interest in One World Championship Wrestling. We then saw the Attitude Era kick in, and the rest is history. We all know the big names from the era such as Stone Cold, Rock, Sting, Triple H, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, but what about the more forgotten wrestlers? My name is John, this is Wrestling Hub, and today we will be looking at 10 forgotten 90s wrestlers and where they are now. Haku was a stalwart of WCW for almost their entire run against the WWE. This was from 94 onwards, but Haku also started in 1990 as a WWE star, leaving the company in 92. He started wrestling in the late 70s and made his name wrestling for promotions like All Japan and World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico. He joined the WWE in 86 and stayed with them until 92, winning one tag team title with Andre the Giant. He later joined WCW after 2 short stints in Japan and Mexico. In WCW, Haku was a locker room leader and the final hardcore champion before the company shut down. Haku was one of the lesser known wrestlers of the 90s, but he had immense influence over the locker room because of his genuine nature of being a threatening man. He is considered to be one of the toughest stars ever, as he would fight people that would even question the legitimacy of this business to him. WWE during the Monday Night Wars were scared that WCW would send Haku out to beat DX when they attempted invading WCW. Today, the 59-year-old Haku is still wrestling in the Indies, having also wrestled with his sons Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa in New Japan. A man who most people would associate to the horrible botch which paralyzed a wrestler, D'Lo Brown, is actually one of the most experienced stars in the world right now. He was in his 20s when he started wrestling in the 90s, but never really made a big impact. D'Lo wrestled for Smoky Mountain Wrestling and the World Wrestling Council, where he trained after signing a WWE contract. D'Lo achieved a fair bit of success in the WWE, winning the European title 4 times and the Intercontinental Championship once. D'Lo is a man who does a lot but not wrestle. After he was released from WWE in 2003, he made a journeyman career of himself, wrestling in places like TNA, Ring of Honor, and even All Japan. He retired from wrestling around 2015, and despite being a certified accountant, makes sporadic appearances in the ring and trains the next generation of stars. He is still just 48, so maybe a return to the ring full-time isn't completely out of the picture. Ahmed Johnson was one of the most intimidating figures that came on TV. He was a large and dominating presence in the ring, and this can be attributed to his days as a football player. He was jacked to the roof and had to make it in the WWE. After spending around 5 years wrestling for nobodies, he made it to the WWE, where he instantly became the IC champion. He then went on to wrestle for WCW, but would call an early retirement to his career in 2003. Johnson hasn't had the smoothest transition from wrestling into normal life. We have already taken Johnson's name in our horribly body transformations video, as we have seen that he has gained a lot of weight and looks unhealthy. Despite that, Johnson is still a part of the wrestling world as a trainer at Booker T and Stevie Ray's Pro Wrestling Alliance Wrestling School. He was also a part of a class action lawsuit against the WWE for negligence while looking at concussions. Marc Mero's biggest contribution to wrestling in the 90s has to be the fact that he debuted Sable on Monday Night Raw. Sable became a trailblazer in the 90s, but what about Mero? Mero debuted in WCW, where he was pretty successful, becoming a TV champion and constantly challenging for other titles. He joined the WWE in 96 and took the IC title from the previous man on this list, Ahmed Johnson, who vacated the championship due to injury. Mero was a great wrestler who wrestled through the entire 90s to a relatively successful level. After leaving WWE, Mero did not appear in other promotions like TNA, but would retire in 2006 and have an insane career shift. Mero runs the Marc Mero Body Slam Training Institute in Florida now, but along with that, he is a motivational speaker. He also released a book called How to Be the Happiest Person on the Planet. Justin Credible is considered an absolute ECW legend for what he did at the company. Through the 90s, Credible actually started as a WWE wrestler, wrestling in a mid-card spot. His only pay-per-view appearance for the company was a Royal Rumble match, so that says a lot itself. He found success in Paulie Dangerously's ECW promotion, where he would go on to win the ECW tag titles as well as the ECW title. Credible wouldn't wrestle until 2015, including a return to the WWE where he became an 8-time hardcore champion. Credible has also gone on to wrestle 2 times more after his retirement in 2015, but didn't make any comebacks to the ring in 2018. Credible's own documentary will soon be released, but he was in the news lately with regards to his violent behavior, causing him to land up in jail twice in a span of 30 days. Val Venis is one of the more recognizable names from the era of 90s wrestling, but he isn't as fondly remembered as he should be. Having wrestled in promotions like CMLL, All Japan Pro Wrestling, and the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico, Venis eventually made his way into the WWE where he was given an overly sexualized gimmick. It worked out well, as he became a 1-time tag team champion and a European champion in the WWE, as well as a 2-time Intercontinental champion. Venis stayed on the WWE books till 2009, a feat no one remembers because of how irrelevant he became in the company's changing tides. Along with that, Venis is still wrestling on the independent circuit, even having made an appearance in TNA. Venis' main job now is being an advocate for the legalization of marijuana and runs his own medical marijuana business, Purple Haze Lounge, which is now Health for Life Marijuana Dispensary in Arizona. Just like Ahmed Johnson, Gangrel too featured on our video about body transformations, but that is a point we will get to later. Gangrel was a journeyman wrestling through the majority of the 90s. He wrestled for a lot of unremarkable and small indie promotions, but also made appearances with WWE, WCW, and even ECW. He would get his big break in '98 when he rejoined the WWE as the manager of the Brood and later the New Brood. He never won a title in the WWE, but did challenge X-Pac for the European title at the Royal Rumble in 1999. Gangrel, aside from having gained weight, is still an active competitor on the independents. Even though he isn't getting bookings from big companies, he wrestles for smaller indie promotions. He has also returned to WWE a few times since his release in 2001, primarily in 2004, 2005, and a short stint from 06 to 07. Marty Jannety entered the 1990s while still part of the super hot tag team The Rockers with Shawn Michaels. Before that, he was still teaming with Michaels, but in smaller promotions all over America. Jannety would have Michaels turn on him in '92, soon after which Jannety was released temporarily. He came back and became the IC and tag team champion. He left in '94, but rejoined in '95, and would finally leave to join WCW, where he was mainly used as a jobber. Jannety may have had a few stunts here and there with WWE even in the 2000s, but has had 2 memorable things happen to him, which keeps him in the news. The first was him being a part of a class action lawsuit against the WWE because they concealed the risk of injuries and caused brain damage as a result. He also had an issue where his Facebook was allegedly hacked and put up posts about how he wants to sleep with his daughter. Jannety maintains he was hacked and is upset that this incident tarnishes his wrestling legacy. Steve Blackman is fondly remembered for his cool look, kendo stick love, and throwing Shane McMahon off massive things for him to crash to the ground. The 6-time hardcore champion doesn't have a storied career in wrestling and as a result isn't remembered nearly as fondly as he should. In his few years as a wrestler, he spent all of them with the WWE in the late 90s and early 2000s. He challenged for the European and Intercontinental titles but could never win. Blackman hasn't wrestled since he left the WWE in 2002, despite saying in 2010 that he really misses being in the ring and is tempted to make a return. He was a very entertaining character on TV and possibly could have had more success than he actually did. Having left the wrestling industry, Blackman tried dabbling in martial arts. Today he works as a bail bondsman in Pennsylvania. Many people actually forget how Ken Shamrock was a part of the WWE and a pretty featured part as well. The man was instrumental in popularizing mixed martial arts in the US and was also a key cog in the corporation in the WWE. Shamrock is a 1-time IC and tag team champion, as well as the 1998 King of the Ring winner. He's also credited for popularizing the ankle lock as a finisher, which would later be used by Kurt Angle as well as Jack Swagger. He has probably the best in-ring and outside the ring achievements on this list. He is also considered to be one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, having been instrumental in the early UFC. His post-WWE career has seen him continue his pre-WWE career of mixed martial arts, having amassed a total of 28 wins and 17 losses with 2 draws. The last promotion he fought for was Bellator MMA, where he had 3 wins in his last 12 fights. And these are 10 forgotten 90s wrestlers and where they are now. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I will see you later with more videos.